Ever dream of a time machine whisking you away to ancient Egypt? Picture this, you're now a pharaoh's slave. Before you panic, let's talk food. One of the perks of this peculiar job was a stable food supply. Yes, you heard that right. While others might have been scavenging for scraps, you were munching on a fairly reliable diet. Ancient Egyptian granaries were the supermarkets of their time, and Pharaoh's slaves had a VIP pass. Your daily bread was just that, actual bread, along with a hearty serving of beer, fish, vegetables, and the occasional meat. Imagine dining on freshly baked flatbreads dipped in rich sauces with a side of grilled fish. Okay, it wasn't exactly a Michelin-starred meal, but it beat the hunt and gather lifestyle of many ancient civilizations. Why such generosity? Simple. Well-fed slaves were productive slaves. The pharaoh's grand projects, like those massive pyramids that still boggle our minds today, required a well-nourished workforce. Hungry workers meant slower progress, and the pharaoh couldn't have that. But let's be clear, the diet wasn't just about keeping you alive to move heavy stones. Ancient Egyptians valued their food and drink, believing it pleased the gods and sustained their spirits. Even the humblest of meals had a touch of the divine, making every bite a small spiritual experience. Bread and beer were staples, viewed as gifts from the gods themselves. Imagine every meal being a mini religious festival, without the uncomfortable seating and endless chanting. So there you were, part of the grand machine that built wonders, with the added bonus of knowing you wouldn't starve. Unlike your contemporaries in other parts of the world, who might have had to survive on whatever they could forage, you had the luxury of a dependable food supply. Imagine it's a scorching hot day in ancient Egypt, and while others are baking under the relentless sun, you, as a pharaoh's slave, are chilling in your modest but adequate shelter. That's right. Being a pharaoh's slave had its perks, and one of them was having a roof over your head. Living as a pharaoh's slave didn't mean roughing it in the elements. You were provided with basic housing, typically shared quarters, but hey, it was better than sleeping under the stars with the risk of becoming a midnight snack for some wandering wildlife. Your shelter, though not luxurious, was stable, offering protection from the harsh Egyptian sun, the cold desert nights, and those unexpected sandstorms that could ruin anyone's day. Your humble abode would be made from mud bricks, a material that was both sturdy and excellent at keeping the interior cool. It wasn't exactly a penthouse suite, but it was practical and better than what many free citizens had. Plus, the communal living situation meant you had a built-in support system, a group of fellow slaves who shared your struggles and triumphs. Think of it as the original form of dormitory living, minus the Wi-Fi and ramen noodles. Now let's talk fashion. While you might not be strutting down the ancient runway in designer threads, Pharaoh's slaves were provided with decent clothing. Your everyday outfit was a simple linen kilt or tunic, made from one of the finest materials available at the time. Linen was lightweight, breathable, and perfect for the Egyptian climate. It kept you cool and comfortable, which was crucial when you were working those long hours on grand construction projects. The pharaoh's provisions ensured that you were decently dressed and not in rags, unlike slaves in many other ancient cultures. The Egyptians had a sense of dignity and practicality when it came to their workers. You see, well-clothed slaves were healthier and more productive. There was no point in letting their workforce suffer from exposure and illness when they could be building grand monuments instead. Interestingly, ancient Egyptians placed a high value on cleanliness and appearance. You'd even have access to basic hygiene products like oils and perfumes, ensuring you didn't just look good but smelled good too. Imagine that! A slave with access to beauty products. It's like the ancient world's version of a self-care routine. Imagine a world where getting sick didn't mean a death sentence. As a pharaoh's slave, you'd actually have access to medical care. Yes, that's right. Ancient Egypt had a surprisingly advanced medical system, especially for those in the pharaoh's service. You'd be treated by some of the earliest doctors known to history, who used a mix of herbal remedies, magic spells, and rudimentary surgeries. Got a toothache? No problem, there's a herb for that. A nasty cut? They had ointments to prevent infection. The pharaoh's slaves were valuable assets, and keeping them healthy meant keeping the grand projects on track. So you'd get care for injuries and illnesses, often better than what was available to the average Joe, or rather, the average ancient Egyptian. Think of it as ancient workers' comp. The pharaoh needed his workforce healthy and ready to build those massive pyramids and temples. So, while you wouldn't have modern medicine, you'd have a fighting chance against common ailments, and that was a big deal in the ancient world. In short, being a pharaoh's slave meant you were part of a system that cared enough to keep you on your feet. Not too shabby for ancient times, right? Think being a pharaoh's slave meant you were at the bottom of the social ladder? Think again! In ancient Egypt, Serving the pharaoh could actually boost your social status. Yes, you were a slave, but you were a slave with perks and, surprisingly, some respect. Working directly for the pharaoh meant you were part of the elite workforce. While you didn't own land or have wealth, you had something many others didn't: proximity to power. You were part of the inner workings of the grand projects that defined an era, from building pyramids to crafting exquisite art. In a society where status was everything, being associated with the pharaoh's grand endeavors gave you a certain prestige. People knew that those who served the pharaoh directly were essential to his divine mission. Your role, however humble, was seen as contributing to the greater good of Egypt. Occasionally, slaves who demonstrated exceptional skill or loyalty could even be promoted to higher positions, sometimes managing other workers or overseeing important tasks. These promotions were rare but not unheard of, showing that merit could sometimes transcend birthright in ancient Egypt. So, while you wouldn't be mingling with the elite at royal banquets, your work had significance. You were part of something monumental, quite literally, and that conferred a unique kind of respect. In a world where social mobility was limited, being a pharaoh's slave offered a rare opportunity for recognition and, in some cases, a modest rise in status. In essence, being a pharaoh's slave wasn't just about toil and hardship. It placed you in a unique social position, giving you a sense of identity and importance within the grand tapestry of ancient Egyptian society. Not a bad gig, all things considered. Who knew being a pharaoh's slave could be like attending ancient Egypt's version of a vocational school? Unlike the typical image of a slave toiling away mindlessly, pharaoh's slaves often received specialized training in various crafts and trades. Imagine being taught by some of the best artisans and builders of the time. You might learn the intricate art of stone carving, transforming massive blocks of limestone into the exquisite statues and reliefs that have fascinated historians for centuries. Or perhaps you'd be trained in the art of metallurgy, crafting tools and weapons that were crucial to the kingdom's success. Training didn't stop at manual labor. Some slaves were educated in administrative skills, becoming scribes who could read and write hieroglyphs. This was a prestigious skill set, reserved for the literate few. As a scribe, you could keep records, manage resources, and even draft official documents. These skills didn't just benefit the pharaoh, they provided you with a certain degree of personal value and pride. You were no longer just a faceless laborer, you were a craftsman, an artist, or an administrator. This expertise could sometimes be passed down through generations, giving your descendants a better start in life. So, while being a pharaoh's slave involved hard work, it also came with the chance to learn and master valuable skills. These abilities ensured you weren't just building pyramids, you were building a legacy. And who knows? The statue you helped carve might still be standing, admired by millions, thousands of years later. Now that's job satisfaction. Ever dreamed of being part of something monumental, something that would stand the test of time? As a pharaoh's slave, you were at the heart of ancient Egypt's most iconic projects. Imagine telling your grandkids, "I helped build that pyramid!" Working on these colossal structures, like the Great Pyramid of Giza or the magnificent temples of Luxor, wasn't just grueling labor. It was a source of immense pride. You were contributing to projects that symbolized the glory and power of Egypt, projects that would be marveled at for millennia. These grand projects were the ultimate team efforts, involving thousands of workers, from skilled artisans to unskilled laborers. Being part of this team meant you were part of history in the making. Every block you hauled, every stone you chiseled was a step toward creating something that would last forever. But it wasn't all about physical labor. These projects were also immense logistical challenges, and slaves often played crucial roles in the planning and execution. You might have been involved in organizing supplies, maintaining tools, or even helping to design the structures. The pharaoh's projects were not just about construction, they were about legacy. The monuments you helped create were not mere buildings. They were the embodiment of the pharaoh's divine power and a testament to the ingenuity and dedication of his people. Working on these projects connected you to something far greater than yourself. That's all. I'm waiting for your edition about pharaoh's slaves in the comments. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Bye.